Welcome back, guys, to another episode of BTC 2.0, Behind the Counter 2.0. I'm your host, Rich, and I'm back again with another episode. I've been trying to do these each and every week. We got another couple coming up for you. Next week, we got Patrick Reynolds. The week after that, we got DB Andry. But this week, we talked to one of my favorite artists, the Bloody Samoan Michel Mulipola. He joins me for a great talk about comics, collecting, video games, and even pro wrestling, which is something I'm familiar with as I host another pro wrestling podcast called Matt Men. Guys, this is a fun one. Check it out. Hey guys, welcome to the show. Michel Mulipola, how are you?
I'm good, thank you. Yeah, how about yourself?
I'm not too bad. Thank you so much for doing the show. And I hope I didn't butcher your name too
No, no,
bad.
you're good. You're good.
See, I know you, me personally, as just Bloody Samoan.
Yeah.
Because that's your handle, that's your website, bloodysamoan.com. I've been, like I said before we started this, I've been a fan of yours for quite some time, and I think I discovered you through the Headlock comic
Yeah.
and did like a deep dive on your social media and was like professional wrestler at one point. Uh Gamer.
Still am actually.
Are you really? Oh,
Yeah,
awesome.
yeah. I'm wrestling this weekend. I'm the current New Zealand tag team champion. So yeah,
Oh,
so I'm still
fantastic.
wrestling. Yeah.
So okay, current pro wrestler, artist, works for Disney. You, like you said, you can't tell me what you do, but you do work for Disney as an artist. And like I said, gamer and toy collector, clearly, which is awesome. And we're going to talk about all this good stuff. So how did you, this is going to be a two-pronged question, because like I said, I discovered you through the Headlock comic. Now, was it always a lifelong thing between wrestling and art?
Well, the first thing I fell in love with was comic books.
Okay.
That's my first love, and obviously as a little kid loving superheroes, I fell in love with pro wrestling because it was like the closest thing to real life superheroes.
Mm-hmm.
So like that's how I fell in love with wrestling, and so that whole kind of synergy uh between comics and pro wrestling I kind of clued on to fairly early, and that so yeah, so my love of pro wrestling came from my love of comics and superheroes. And then yeah, and I've been very fortunate to be able to make pro wrestling comic books, um, and successfully too. So yeah, that's kind of how it started. It was all comics.
So, and not only have you done, like Headlock, but you've done some stuff for WWE too, right? Through, I want to
Yes,
say through Boom, right?
Boom Studios. Yeah, I
Okay,
did some work with
cool.
Boom Studios and stuff, which you can kind of see behind me on display. They pride the place, the Headlock graphic novels, and also WWE work that myself and Michael Kingston, through our work in Headlock, WWE were obviously cribbing our style for the WWE comics, and then they were essentially like, oh, if we're gonna steal from these guys, we might as well hire them to do a couple of stories for us. So yeah, it was pretty
How
cool
did,
to be able to play in that toy box.
Now, did you grow up a WWE fan, or were you more of like an international wrestling fan before discovering WWE? I'm assuming you grew up in New Zealand.
Yes, yeah, well, yeah,
Okay.
born and raised here in New Zealand, currently based here in New Zealand as well. And back in the '80s, when I was a kid, there was only WWF wrestling,
Okay.
pro wrestling on TV. Before I was born, we had because New Zealand was quite a hotbed territory in the '60s and '70s.
Mm-hmm.
And before I was born, there was what was called On the Mat, which was a local pro wrestling show, and that they had Ric Flair, Andre the Giant, Mark Lewin and stuff like that. Like a whole bunch of top names would come down and tour New Zealand and were featured on New Zealand's pro wrestling show On the Mat. But that was before my time. So when I was a kid growing up, it was just WWF. That's all we had. We only had like two TV channels in New Zealand at the time, and so pro
Wow.
wrestling was there weren't many options for pro wrestling here in New Zealand.
Did WWF ever come and do a tour in New Zealand at all, or no?
Yes, they when they rebranded as WWE, they came down for the first global warming,
Okay.
global warning tour, which was also Australia. That was 2006, I believe, was the first
Okay.
time WWE came down to New Zealand,
Wow. It's
and
it's
that
crazy
was
when you think about that, because that's almost 20 years ago.
true.
Yeah.
Yeah, so yeah, that was the first time WWE officially came down to New Zealand with their own brand and their own show.
Now, how over the moon were you when you got to actually, as an artist and a wrestler, how over the moon were you to be able to do art for the company that you grew up watching?
Oh well, the great thing about it was obviously Mike, Mike the writer, Michael Kingston, creator of Headlocked and writer for Headlocked. He was, I guess, approached first by WWE, and he was writing a story with Samoa Joe, and myself, Mike, and Samoa Joe had worked on a story together in Headlocked where we introduced the Samoan pro wrestler. And I guess having previously worked with Samoa Joe, that I think they put my name forward to be the
Mm-hmm.
artist. And so I got the email, and then I did a couple of sample pages from the story, and Bruce was like, "Yeah, sweet, continue to do the rest." And so it was pretty sweet, like to be working with Mike and Samoa Joe again, because there's a friends of mine, and I was glad that we had an established relationship, and to play in that toy box and to illustrate official WWE comics, and I got in that first story, got to work with Samoa Joe, and I also drew Roman Reigns. And then in some of the smaller kind of panels in the background, I drew like Nia Jax and Usos and stuff. Like pretty much, I was like, okay, I'm gonna throw as many Samoans in the story as I can, because again, it's a big deal to have an international comic co-written by a Samoan pro wrestler, illustrated by a Samoan artist. And so I was like, I've got to celebrate that and try and think. So yeah, it was not only professionally but also culturally. It was kind of cool that there was that kind of moment with me and Samoa Joe working on the story for WWE.
That's awesome. And like I like how I like speaking, like speaking of like kind of like the if we could touch on the cultural thing right now, like how crazy is it that like you're wearing the Uzi shirt, you're wearing a Bloodline shirt. How awesome is it for a Samoan guy who is a wrestler and an artist to see this on television every week and have like arguably the best storyline in pro wrestling in the past God knows how many years.
It's interesting because I barely watch wrestling, like
Mhm.
full shows of wrestling. I
Yeah.
kind of just stick with the YouTube clips because I'm like
Yeah.
I just time poor really in terms of all the other stuff I do. Wrestling
Yeah.
isn't as important. So, but yeah, the whole Bloodline Sami Zayn stuff is so entertaining and so hilarious and so layered. Like there's so many great things about it. And here's the funny thing about I'm not too sure if you know about the Uzi thing,
Yeah.
because
Yeah. Yeah.
obviously like Sammy, when he first dropped it, you see the guys cracking up. And that's and so anyone that's Polynesian, like well, as soon as that dropped, and we just knew automatically, and I was like, I've got to get that T-shirt because that shit is hilarious. Because Usi in Tongan means shit. Um, so so when you have like the WWE universe chanting Usi Usi, like that's why the guys were cracking up when Sammy said it
That's
because we all
hysterical.
knew what it actually means. But obviously, like Sammy playing the kind of like ignorant kind of guy that doesn't realize what he's saying, but obviously backstage he does because it's all a big massive injury. But it's a massive injury for us Polynesians. So walking around with this t-shirt, like a lot of people in my community would just kind of laugh because we all automatically know what Usi means. Um, but the WWE universe is a little ignorant to that. So yeah, so that's why those guys were cracking up on that in that promo because we all knew that it was a swear word, and Sami Zayn was getting away with it because because of the way he was. So yeah, it's been great, and I'm so glad. Like to be honest, I was never a huge fan of Roman Reigns.
Okay.
Uh, like but obviously with the bloodline and stuff, he's really come into his own, and so now I'm like,
Mhm.
yeah, cool, I can get behind him now. Like he's found his thing. For so long he was kind of floundering, trying to figure out like whether to be himself or whether to be what WWE wants him to be, and
Right.
there's a slight disconnect, and now he's just like, yeah, it,
I,
it just feels good.
that's awesome. I think it's a good like it's like finally it's like you see the guy's actual personality combined with
Yeah,
whatever they're writing for him or whatever and then like it works, especially with like the cousins and everybody involved. It's such an excellent like cohesive unit, you know.
Yeah.
But yeah, like, you know, like again, long story short, like you must feel fantastic to see that kind of
Yeah, and
representation on the TV screen. That's
yeah,
awesome.
what's funny about the whole Sami Zayn thing wanting to join them is that um
Mm,
that's an actual thing. Like, I'm not too sure about how it is in America, but here in Aotearoa, New Zealand, there's always like a guy who isn't Samoan, who isn't Tongan, who wants to be like
yeah.
one of the boys. And so, like, this whole Sami Zayn situation was like, for us, me and my mates, we had this Indian guy who would always kind of act like he was Samoan,
Uh-huh.
kind of act like an Uso kind of thing, even though he wasn't like it. So we kind of, embraced him a bit, and we did rib him a few times as well. But just having that person who wanted to be like us, like as a Samoan and stuff, like I was like, I totally get this. Like this is a real life thing.
Yeah.
Honorary us and all that stuff. So yeah, so that's why it was kind of interesting. Like, I was like, yeah, this is. And then I often joke about how there's two types of people in this world: Samoans and those who want to be. So,
That's awesome.
um, but yeah, so the whole storyline, like as I said, there's layers to it, but then there's also like familiarity, and that's why I
Yeah.
loved about the whole thing.
That's so cool. And like even, you know, you talking about it, you have like a big smile on your face.
Yeah,
Um let's move on from the pro wrestling. I want to talk to you very specifically about your Cerebro Command Center. I saw you posted.
yeah,
I was trying to I was trying to describe what it was to my wife this morning, and then I
yeah,
finally found the clip of you putting the bed down and unfolding it. Yeah, like just tell me like how did that come about? And like for people who are listening, it's like, and correct me if I'm wrong, it's almost like you have like a Murphy bed, and then it unfolds and it's your full blown like computer setup,
yeah.
right?
Yeah, so yeah, it's a desk bed, um, and pretty much just came about thanks to COVID. So
Mhm.
in New Zealand, we went into a 6 week lockdown, and I remember the first 6 weeks of lockdown I spent living in a comic store.
Oh
Where my
yeah.
you know, my mate owns a comic store, and I remember just thinking I need to get work done, but under lockdown, like I needed a space to actually
Yeah,
get
yeah.
it done. I didn't actually have the space at home, so I decided to stay in the comic store, and
Mhm.
being surrounded by comics and having high speed internet and all kinds of stuff. It was just like, oh wow, this is amazing. I got a lot of work done in the six
Mhm.
weeks. Then when we came out of lockdown, I went back home. I was like, I don't have that space at home. Like, and then I knew that there was possibly going to be more lockdowns, and so I
Mhm.
needed to kind of future proof my thing. So I ended up kind of spending a shitload of money, uh, buying like this little cabin out the back and decking it out. And so having a small amount of
Wow.
space, I was like, how can I maximize the space? And
Yeah.
so I got this desk bed, and then I hooked up my computer. I essentially was mounted a couple of monitors to the bottom of the bed, so when it pulls up, it's like a wall. Yeah, and I just kind of did a lot of measuring and a lot of kind of planning to kind of
Mhm.
make sure that everything fit and everything was all good. And so yeah, so it's been a game changer, and I've done so much work, and I've been able to be so much more productive in lockdown and out of lockdowns. Thanks to the COVID. So like without the COVID situation, I probably wouldn't have the space.
Yeah.
So I kind of just as they say, called it on the fly, and just kind of you know yeah, just kind of made that situation work for me.
Yeah,
Yeah.
it's crazy looking because like that's like do you have the world record for the shortest commute on the planet?
I have no idea, but
Mm.
yeah, but it's just yeah, it's just like being surrounded by all the stuff. Like obviously, you know what I'm talking about.
Yeah, yeah,
But
yeah.
surrounded by all the stuff you love, like there's a creative energy to it. So
Oh yeah,
every
yeah,
time
for sure.
every time I wake up, I just being surrounded by what stuff I love is like cool. I want to make stuff. I want to do the stuff I love. And so that's kind of why I've kind of decorated it how I have because it just adds to my creativity.
That's a phenomenal way to put it too. And like you have like I obviously like like I know what you're talking about. I think a lot of people who listen to this and who know me also know what you're speaking about. Like we're like I feel like I'm a lifelong collector. I'm assuming you've been a lifelong collector too, like comics
Yeah,
and like all this. And you got a lot of cool stuff. I see you got like the Sugar Man behind you, which is pretty fantastic.
yeah,
And you got your Transformers, and I can see a little Minoru Suzuki back there. But you're
yeah.
also like you're a big gamer, and you made me. I think you posted it yesterday or today on Twitter. Um, you picked
The
up a
Steam Deck.
Steam Deck, and I was like going through it because I have a buddy who also is like, if you get this, you're never gonna leave your house, or you're gonna take it everywhere you go. So like, you just picked up the Steam Deck. How do you like it? And you're a
Yeah,
big
at the
Tekken
moment,
guy,
like,
right?
yeah.
Yeah.
So Tekken 7, like, runs okay.
Mm,
Like runs good, but like there are moments where it possibly is too much for the Steam Deck.
yeah.
But I've been playing No More Heroes.
Oh, awesome.
So 1, 2, and 3 is I've gone through. I've finished one and
Mm,
two, and then currently playing three. Um, obviously because Travis Touchdown does a lot of pro wrestling moves in that game, and
yeah, yeah, yeah.
so that's part of the fun and all the pro wrestling Easter eggs
Mm,
because of Suda 5-1, being a huge wrestling fan.
mm.
And yeah, it's been great. And like one thing I'm surprised by is the controls are so good. Like you got full size joysticks,
Yeah.
and they're smooth, and like I can play for a while, like a long time. Like I haven't felt any strain or anything. Like the way it's been designed is pretty good, and I've just been modding some of it so I can play like Netflix and stuff. So
Oh, awesome.
and then I've just installed emulators for PS2 and PS3. So yeah, been playing Burnout 3 Takedown
That's right
on bed.
on.
I was like, is this supposed to get big? Let me just get a couple of races in before I get bed and stuff. Like it's been a game changer, and I'll see how it goes over the next wee while. But at the moment, I'm pretty impressed with it so far.
And you're a lifelong gamer, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Funny enough, the game of choice that I play is Taken, the Taken series,
Yeah.
and I fell in love with Tekken because of pro wrestling.
Okay.
Because I've been playing Tekken since Tekken 1, and when
Mm.
I was a little kid at the fish and chip shop, they had the arcade machine, and I remember just kind of putting the coin in and bashing buttons like you do. But I remember picking this in my mind, this tiger guy. Picked him,
Uh-huh.
and I was bashing the buttons, and he did a suplex, and I was just like, "Oh, he's a
Yeah.
wrestler!" And then that's when I started playing Tekken even more because it was like, "There's a wrestler in this game." And nice, you got the storm. You could kind of see it there with
Yeah.
my king shrine. So like, I got the Tekken 3 figure, I got the Storm Collectibles one, I got the Tekken 4 12-inch doll, I got the Tekken 5 statue and stuff. Like
It's
King's been my main since Tekken 1. And I'm kind of known as the King of New Zealand.
oh,
Um,
it's awesome.
because I've been around the Tekken scene for so long, like 20 plus years, no, almost 20 years, and
Yeah.
Tekken scene here in New Zealand that I'm known as the king guy, and so even in Australia, like the players over there know me. Like I have a reputation as being the king guy, and
That's
and I
awesome.
was at yeah, I've competed at um, Evo 2018. I was on the live
Mm.
stream, so I got to take on I think uh Batsu, who placed
Okay.
ninth the year before. So I took it from
Wow.
Japan, did that on the live stream. So people from around the world were watching me, and they were like, "Who is this guy? Like, this guy's pretty good." So now I have a international reputation as a king
That's
player
awesome.
because I actually utilize my creativity in the way I play the game, and so the
Okay.
way I play the game is totally different. And so everyone's like, "Man, we got to tune into this guy because like he's doing this crazy stuff that like we haven't seen before." And so when I was at Evo last year, 2022, I was playing so many people, and even Rangchu, who was
Mm.
2018 Tekken World Tour champion, I had to play him in my pool
Wow.
because we were beating everyone else. And when I hit him with one of my tech things, like him and his friends were like, "What was that?" Like we had never like even they hadn't seen it. Like this top player had never seen like my setup, kind of my
Oh,
tech,
wow.
and
That's awesome.
so yeah, so that's kind of like I'm not trying to be the best. I'm just trying to be unique and different.
Yeah.
And so yeah, I
And
just
have fun.
yeah, and have fun, and that's how I have fun is by being creative and finding new ways and interesting new ways to do some cool shit. Really is get my spots in, and whatnot, and yeah, and so that's kind of meant that I have a semi kind of international reputation for being a very creative king player.
Ooh.
Um, so yeah, it's been pretty surreal to kind of be uh, good at the game as well. It's good enough that people will name check you and whatnot. So yeah, funny enough, there's in New Zealand and Australia, there's a in Tekken there's a thing called the Korean backdash.
Okay.
But like in Tekken, because I use this particular move of King so much here in Oceania and in the Australia, New Zealand Tekken scene, they've started referring to it as the Samoan backdash.
Oh,
so,
really?
yeah, so even then, just like I've kind of created like this reputation, and now there's like even this kind of in joke um of this move being named after me, because I use it so much.
Is
So
the
yeah, so,
is the Tekken scene like enormous in New Zealand and Australia?
Australia definitely there is more because of
Yeah.
the higher population. New Zealand, I think one of the good things about Tekken 7,
Mhm.
particularly, is that it introduced a lot of new players to the
Okay.
scene, but the scene still is, I would say, small compared to, other scenes and whatnot. There's a few hardcore, passionate uh, uh, players like me and that still jam after so long. But yeah, but one of the good things is seeing more new and newer players join the scene and stuff. So that's been one of the good things about the latest game.
You're like deep into it. Like when was the last time like you and you do it for fun, right?
Yeah.
When was the last time you did like a like a big tournament like that? Like stuff like that, like I always miss. Like when I was younger, it was very much Marvel versus Capcom.
Yeah.
And those were like all the tournaments were like very heavy Marvel versus Capcom, like who could do like the 165 hit combos and all that stuff. And I'd always wash out like immediately, you know. Um like how often are those tournaments going on?
Um, Not as often. I guess now that we're in the new year, we'll start kicking off a
Mm.
bit more soon. But usually we have a thing called Ranbats, which is every 2 weeks.
Oh, cool.
Uh, yeah, like in the but I barely go to those because again I'm a busy dude and video
Yeah.
games is low on the priority list. But when I do get some time, I'll pop in and whatnot. I drove down to Hamilton, which is about an hour drive last month to play some video games because I
Yeah.
just finished up some Disney stuff, and I was like, "Cool, I've got some free time. I'm going to drive down and play some video games."
Oh, right on.
So yeah, it all depends really, but it's yeah, but usually Ranbats is every 2 weeks, and then major tournaments are like every 3 months or so, like in different cities around New Zealand. And then when I'm in America, like
Mm.
luckily for me, Evo is like usually 2 weeks after San Diego Comic Con.
Yeah,
And
yeah, yeah.
so if I go to San Diego Comic Con, I just stay a little bit longer and then go and do Evo at the same time.
Might as well, right? When was the last time
Yeah,
you visited the States?
November, December. Actually, I
Oh,
was
right
there.
on. Okay.
I was in LA, getting to work out of the Disney studios, so that was pretty cool. Because I'm lucky that I get to work from home here in New
Mm.
Zealand. And so I was just like, okay, well, while I'm contracted under Disney, like I've got to go over and work out of the studios. And so, yeah, I spent a couple of weeks in LA, which is the longest time I spent in LA because I don't like LA. I'm not a fan of LA.
A
Uh,
lot of people don't. So, talk to me about the Disney stuff. Like, I know you mentioned, like, like I'm not gonna press you about what you're
yeah.
working on, but what, like, just can you tell us, like, what do you do at Disney, and like, how did you end up getting that job? And like, you must, again, being an artist, that's kind of like the creme de la creme.
Yeah, well, it's crazy because like I'm currently a story artist for
Mhm.
Disney, and so I do storyboards and whatnot. And this is like this is what's funny. I tell people, and they always look at me like I'm a lucky son of a bitch.
Mm.
This is my first job in animation.
Wow.
Like I've never done anything with animation except until now, and my first job with animation was with Disney. Um, and as a story artist, like I was like, okay, could do storyboards. You know, there's obviously similarities to comics. Obviously, there are differences, but in my mind, like, okay, I might be able to do it. And so they initially offered me a 5 week contract. And
Mm.
as I was storyboarding my first scene that I was assigned, I realized I was like, oh shit, like this position is pretty powerful because as a story artist, like I'm affecting the scenes I'm assigned in terms of like
Mm.
creating emotional moments and pacing
Mm.
and camera shots and stuff. And I was like, wait, they entrusted me with this position? Like, and so in the third week when I pitched my first scene, I storyboarded.
Mm.
They actually got approved on the second pass, and I was just like,
Wow.
oh, okay. And then a couple of days later, they were like, hey, we want to extend your contract to February. This was in August. Um, and so, yeah, so essentially, I've been working for Disney since August, and my current contract was supposed to end next week, but now it's been extended another month.
Mm.
Um, and whatnot. But like, it's been crazy to kind of work under Disney and work in their system, and it's been so fun. Like, it's so much. I enjoy it so much. And one of the things I love about the story team is that everyone is trying to tell the best story possible. And I love that. That's the vibe I love, where it's about telling stories, whether it's comics, whether it's pro wrestling, even in the
Yeah.
way I play the games, I play video games, it's all about telling stories.
Yeah.
And so it's like the perfect kind of environment for the way I think and see the world. And it's been great. And like even better is that the remuneration is great. Like work life
Yeah.
balance is good as well. Like
That's awesome.
yeah, it's like I get paid well and I have enough time. Like I have more time to hang out with friends and family working for Disney than I did as a normal freelancer. Um, and whatnot. But like in terms of how I got this job, like it's not the normal way you get a job. And it's kind of hard too because like if I if I talk about how I got the job, um, initially, then it kind of connects to what I'm working on. But let's just say that I applied for a story artist job last year, 2023, in 2021,
Yeah.
September 2021, where they were like Disney were looking for story artists.
Mm.
And I applied knowing full well I had no background in animation and I have no experience like with
Yeah.
the
Yeah.
stuff. But I'm just gonna give it a go anyway. And I applied, and June last year is when I got the email saying, "Hey, we went with other artists, but we do like your stuff. Maybe if we find something right for you, then we can send it your way if that's fine with you." I'm like,
Mm.
hell yeah, like that's cool. That's not a flat out you suck. That's like a
Right.
hey, we went with other artists who are better than you, but there's something that we like about your work, so maybe a maybe. And earlier that year in January, so I applied for the milestone initiative that DC Comics were doing in November 2021.
Oh, cool.
Uh,
Yeah. Yeah.
and so I applied for that.
Mm.
But the fun thing about that was that the milestone initiative was only open to residents of US and Canada.
Oh, interesting.
I
Okay.
was like, stuff it. I'm just gonna enter anyway, even all the way from New Zealand, because in my mind I was like, if I do these pages, these sample pages, and they're good enough, maybe I'll get my work seen.
Yeah.
Right, it was about getting my work in front of the right eyes, and so I got an email in Jan's asking for clarification about my geographical status, and because
Mm.
unfortunately because I was in New Zealand, they couldn't proceed further with my
Yeah.
application. And I remember getting that email thinking they wouldn't email asking for that if they weren't interested. And so like in my mind, I had this, you know, close but no cigar, kind of emails from DC Comics, and then in
Yeah.
June getting one from Disney. And then I was like, you know what? This is a sign. If these companies are really, really interested in my work, I need to go to San Diego Comic Con next month.
Yeah. Yeah.
Um, and so I booked flights and whatnot. I booked everything with the hope that maybe I can get a meeting to happen. and I emailed both companies saying, "Hey, I'm going to be in the States. If you want to meet, I'm happy to come up to LA from San Diego and and whatnot,
Mm.
and get the ball rolling." And I got positive emails back like, "Oh yeah, that would be cool," blah blah, but nothing confirmed, nothing concrete.
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
So I fly over. I fly over to the States. Nothing confirmed, nothing scheduled. Just with a hope, like if I put myself there, shit will happen. And on the second day, I was like, I booked Disneyland, I booked San Diego Comic Con, I booked
Mm.
Evo. So I was like, if none of those meetings happen, I'm gonna have a great time anyway,
Yeah,
you know.
why not,
Um,
right? Beautiful city.
so yeah, um, and so the second day I was there, I'm at Disneyland and I'm posting on social media. And one of the people I know at Disney, that we follow each other on Instagram, messages me is like, "Dude, are you here in LA?" I'm like, "Here, man. I'm here for a couple of weeks, San Diego next week and whatnot." He goes, "Okay, cool.
Yeah.
Let me get back to you. I've got a couple of people from Disney that want to meet with you." So on the second day I was there, I had a meeting, possible meeting with Disney, like lined
That's
up.
awesome.
And it was because I was there. I was just like, I
Yeah.
just flew myself over. Um, and then San Diego happens, and I hadn't heard back from DC. And then about on Friday afternoon of San Diego Comic Con, so I'm like, Comic Con started. DC are not getting back to me. Friday afternoon, I get an email asking what my availability is like tomorrow.
Yeah.
Because we got DC editors who want to meet me, and I was like,
Wow.
okay, whatever their schedule is my schedule. I'll be there.
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
And I had two really great meetings with two DC Comics editors who really liked my
Mm.
stuff. Um, and yeah, and so there's some possible work for them too. And I was just like, okay, this worked out. Just flying myself over with with a hope and a dream, kind of, and putting myself there that allowed for these opportunities to happen. And so I had that meeting of Disney the following week after Comic Con. I took the 4 a.m. train to LA from San
Wow.
Diego the day before the meeting because I was like, just
Uh,
go in fresh, don't rush it, just and then at the meeting with the Disney guys, they're like asking me like, "Oh, do you know what this meeting's about?" I'm like, "Not particularly," and they're like, "Well, we've been wanting to work with you since the beginning of this project,
oh wow.
and when we found out that you had applied but were declined, we were pissed off because we were like, we could have gotten you in like earlier through that because you
Right,
applied, you
right.
actually applied through the proper channels, and so essentially they offered me a job. I was like, oh, wait, you don't need to. I had my portfolio on my iPad ready to show them, and they're like, I was like, you don't need to see my work. Like, oh no, we're fully aware of your work
Wow.
and whatnot.
That must
So
have been a good feeling.
yeah, I was just like, oh shit, like I was happy with a meeting. I was not expecting a job offer.
Yeah, yeah.
And obviously, the 5 weeks was kind of like a trial period to see if I fit in, whether I could take the work
Mm.
on, whether even I liked the work. So I appreciated them kind of having that time. And obviously, in that third week when I did the work, they were like, "Yeah, now that we made the right call to extend this contract." Um, so yeah, so that's kind of how it happened. Like, it's not the
Mm.
usual way you
Yeah.
would do it. And I was told that by because Disney don't necessarily hire outside of like the established animation industry, and because
Mm.
I didn't have the resume of animation behind me, I guess Disney weren't open to the idea of hiring me for this project. But I was told that like being there in LA forced their hand to go. We need to get him now. He's
Yeah.
here. Let's secure him, or else we're gonna miss the opportunity. So yeah, so I made the opportunity happen by forcing them by putting myself there. And so that's kind of how it happened.
That's
Really,
that's
it's
that's
yeah.
wild, man. That's awesome. Like you took a chance on
Um,
yourself and also like you showed them like, hey, like listen, there's a face. Like this art belongs to a face. And
yeah.
this is I'm here, you know?
Um, so yeah, so it's yeah, like as I said, it's not the
Mm-mm.
usual way you get a job with Disney. But like I
Mm.
think that's just been par on course for my career. Like the first Comic Con I went to, San Diego Comic Con, was 2011. That was the
Mm.
first time I met Michael Kingston, and the funding I got for that first Comic Con, I won through a Facebook competition.
Wow.
So 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 an energy drink here in New Zealand have a competition, and they were offering $10,000 to the winner if they could tell the energy drink how they can pimp their life to the amount of $10,000.
Uh,
And I remember entering that competition and seeing all the other entries, and it was like boring old shit, the same old stuff like
yeah,
that
yeah,
people. And I remember just thinking, oh, where's the cool stuff? Where's the stuff that stands out? So I entered, and luckily you get one image to go off your entry, and I
yeah.
created like this 2-page comic using like the energy drink as a superhero, like a superhero based
Oh
on the
wow.
energy drink. And my entry was about taking that money and going to San Diego Comic Con, not to get a job, but to see if I was good enough. Like
Okay.
I would never go over to Comic Con thinking I'm the shit. I'm gonna people are gonna give me jobs. I'm like, no, I'm
Yeah.
gonna know how I can improve. How can I be a better, stronger storyteller? So that was the idea. I was like, I want to go to San Diego Comic Con and see if I got the goods, whether I can do this on an international
Mm.
level. And here's an image to show you my work. As soon as I entered, it caught the eye of the competition organizers, and they started sharing it. And I was
Oh
like,
wow.
yes, that's exactly what I was hoping for. Where it stood out, it was different, it was bold, and and it caught the eye straight away. And after about 3 months of like the whole competition and stuff, I ended up winning that 10 grand, and I used that 10 grand
Wow.
to fight the San Diego Comic Con, where I met Michael Kingston. Um, and I met Mike, and I was like, "Hey, I'm a wrestler from New Zealand, but I also draw comic books. Here's my work." And he was like, "Oh shit, dude! Like you're really good. We got to do something."
Oh,
And
that's right
so
on. Yeah.
yeah, and so from 2012, I've been working with
Mhm.
Mike on Headlocked. But again, it was just like all of these chances I take, all of
Yeah.
the betting on myself, and it creates more opportunities because I take those chances, yeah, and build opportunities for myself, build uh, ways for me to kind of make my own way into the industry I am in. So yeah, that's the kind of power on course for my career in general is just betting on myself and essentially taking the bump, right? Taking the bump to put it in wrestling terms, you just take the bump
Mhm.
um, and yeah, and then it works out. Like in most of my cases, it works out because you know because I have taken the chance on myself
Yeah.
and taking risks, and that's part of being a pro wrestler as well. You're always risking, health and your safety every time you step in the ring, but you learn the techniques and you master techniques and you work in conjunction with your opponent to minimize the damage and tell the best story possible. So that's yeah, it's kind of really crazy. It's been real crazy, honestly. As I People just like asking me, how do I do it? And I say, I don't know. I just do it. Like I just
It's
do
a
it. Like
good
that's
it's
yeah,
a good philosophy for life, like that's that, like just, learn your stuff and put yourself in the right position. Take a chance on yourself, obviously,
yeah.
and like with you need the confidence to do that. And that's a phenomenal thing that I think more people need. Where do you see yourself being like a Disney lifer? Do you have anything like do you have stuff in the tank where you're like, I'm doing stuff for Disney, but maybe I can do maybe I
Oh
can go the Miyazaki route and
yeah,
have
yeah.
something.
Yeah. It's interesting because like I because I'm enjoying working with Disney at the moment, and I still have so much to learn in
Yeah.
in Disney, like working in Disney. I would love to work, more with them. Maybe if the Disney Plus project we're working on gets a second season, then I'll be back on for that. But it's yeah. At the moment, like it's crazy. I've written a short film script, and like I'm looking at directing. When I have time, it's
Yeah,
like
yeah, yeah, yeah.
um, and like one of the like the Disney stuff's been great, but one of the drawbacks about working for Disney is that I haven't been able to work on the next Headlocked, and
Okay.
Mike and Headlocked, that's where I really started getting traction, for my work
Mhm.
internationally, and whatnot. So, I whenever I can, like I try and work with Mike and Headlocked because that's where it started, and I'm passionate about that story that we're telling. But sometimes my schedule doesn't allow me the time to work on it, and I always. So yeah, if my contract gets extended again with Disney, I would probably have to send an email to Mike and be like, oh, no, I can't. As much as I'd love to,
Yeah, yeah.
I might have to uh, bow out of the next volume. But I've he sent me scripts and stuff, and I've read through them, and they're good. And I've done like 2 or 3 pages. I've started it,
Yeah,
but
yeah,
then
yeah.
just came along. I'm like, shit. It's kind of like an embarrassment of riches. Like it's a good problem to have.
Champagne problems.
Yeah, but it's just like it just sucks because yeah, as I said, Mike and Headlock will always have a special place for me because that was kind of
Yeah.
the first time someone outside of New Zealand gave me a shot.
Right, right,
You know,
right. Yeah.
it's a story I love to tell. It's a story I'm passionate about telling. But yeah, unfortunately, I just usually don't have the time, which is why there's been delays. With the next Headlock and stuff. But it's usually on me, really. Like it sucked
Mhm.
when I had to email Mike and say, "Hey, dude, they've extended my contract for another 7 months."
Yeah,
Like,
yeah, yeah.
kind of thing. So
Yeah,
yeah,
but I mean, like, you can't be mad at that. It's not like you're like, "Hey, man, I'm working at 7-Eleven. I can't do this."
yeah.
It's Disney. What's your process now? Like, are you just straight digital, or are you more traditional, or is it a combination of both?
Yeah, no, for most of my work stuff, like 90% of it is digital.
Mm.
Especially being here in New Zealand, digital just works easier.
Yeah,
You I don't have to worry about sending or scanning pages. Working digital allows me to work anywhere too,
yeah.
and as long as I have an internet connection, I can send work wherever. So yeah, so I've been working digital for a while now. Yeah, it just makes it easier, especially in like when you're working in productions and stuff. Working digital also makes it easy for edits and revisions to be
Yeah,
made.
yeah.
So yeah, so pretty much entirely digital. Most odd thing is traditional, but usually digital.
I think I saw a Wacom tablet on your page, if I'm not mistaken.
Yeah, yeah. So I did have the Wacom.
Mm.
I have upgraded to a Huion 22-inch tablet.
Oh, right on. Yeah.
Yeah, because I was just like, I do need to get a bigger one. And I was like, Huion's cheaper. I've heard decent things about them, and it's pretty good. Yeah, I'm pretty happy with it. Like, I've always been a Wacom guy, but the Huion's pretty good. I still prefer the Wacom
Yeah.
Pro Pen.
Okay.
Yeah, the pen for Wacom is always really really good.
Yeah.
Um,
Those
yeah,
are wild. I've only gotten to try a few of the Wacom, like the higher end Wacoms, and like
yeah.
too rich for my blood, but they are gorgeous.
Oh man, when I went
Yeah.
to Disney, um, every disc, but there's like disc spaces at Disney Animation Building, and all of
Mhm.
them had like the 24-inch Wacom.
Oh
I was like,
wow.
oh, okay. So
You should have said like, hey, the guy said I could take one of these.
so that was a nice experience during one of those for a week and a bit well at the Disney shows. But yeah, they're pretty good, and they are pricey. That's
Oh
that is
yeah.
one definitely pricey, but like Huion make really good
Mm.
alternatives at a much cheaper price too. So yeah.
Yeah, I think like the artist. It's sometimes it doesn't matter what it is as long as you
Oh
can use
yeah,
the paintbrush.
yeah,
Like you can
and
turn.
and yeah, I often tell people like digital tools are just that, they're tools. Like
Right. Yeah.
I know with AI and stuff, you can just literally type shit and then the computer will make it for you. But like with digital tools, you can't just press a button and the artwork is done for you. It's still your hand
Oh yeah.
drawing.
Yeah. Yeah.
So my I started because I'm of the age where I grew up analog and then digital kind of came in a little bit later,
Yeah.
and so I get the best of both worlds. And I often tell people the reason why my digital is good is because I started off traditional.
Mm.
You know, there's a foundation there.
Right.
Uh,
All the fundamentals are there already.
yeah, and so yeah, so the
Mm.
digital tools just kind of enhance it and make it look better. But or the underlying foundation is there.
Yeah. Right. Right now, me, I just mess with Procreate a lot, and
Yeah.
that's
Oh,
that's,
Procreate's
that's
great.
yeah.
Like I've got an iPad. Like I don't like using the
Mm.
iPad Pro, but if I will when I'm traveling because it's much easier
Yeah.
than taking. e-commerce stuff. So I use my iPad Pro when I'm traveling in Procreate. Yeah, I the software I use is Clip Studio Paint,
Okay.
um, and I've been using that since like 2007 when it was like Manga Studio.
Oh, cool. All
Oh
right.
yeah,
Yeah.
but Procreate, yeah, it's so great. Like, and I think the developers of Procreate are from Tasmania in Australia.
Oh, get out of here.
Yeah. So yeah, yeah, they've been doing great stuff, and I've been seeing so many people like doing great stuff in Procreate. I can't do a finished complete artwork with an iPad Pro. It just doesn't feel right. Like
Yeah,
it's
yeah,
good
yeah,
for
yeah.
quick sketches for me, but I can't do full fledged artwork on the iPad Pro.
Yeah, we live in such a crazy digital age. All right, Miko. I got two. Well, I got a couple more questions, and then I'm gonna get you out of here. All right. Uh, what's your favorite collectible, and also what's your favorite sandwich?
Favorite collectible?
Your
Whoa.
favorite collectible now, I should say, because if we are similar, it'll change every day.
Yeah,
Hmm.
it's really hard because like I just swapped out the like this is a life size Green Lantern power battery lamp, but I
Yeah.
swapped out like the heavier DC collectibles one. I kind of was like, this one's brighter. Like,
Mhm.
I remember that being awesome because as a Green Lantern fan, like having a life
Yeah.
size Green Lantern power battery that lights up was like, oh shit, this is the
Yeah. Yeah.
best.
Yeah.
Um, oh, Infinity Gauntlet, that's yeah, it's really hard. Very
It's tough. I feel
collectible.
like it's for people that are really deep into it. It's
Yeah,
the toughest question. Like
yeah.
I again, like you asked me on Tuesday, it's going to be a different answer. Like right now, I think for me, it's like my brother got me the Ragnarok Marvel Legends figure,
Oh yeah,
like Robot Thor, and I'm like, yeah, this is the one for this week.
yeah, yeah. No, I think that's yeah. Like the Green Lantern power battery and the Infinity Gauntlet, the stuff that like I dreamt of as a kid. Like the real
Oh yeah,
life kind of like versions of like comic stuff. Like
yeah, yeah.
huge fan of the Cosmic Cube as well. So like when they came out, you grabbed one of those. There's life size kind of
Mhm.
props. Kind of feel like one of those things. Like, I can't believe we got these.
Oh
So
yeah,
yeah,
for
I
sure.
think
Like the thing being the cap
yeah,
shield behind me, that was my favorite lockdown pandemic purchase.
yeah. Yeah, I think yeah, those would be the up there. The Infinity Gauntlet and the Green Lantern power battery, life size Green Lantern power
Yeah,
battery. Yeah. And
awesome.
favorite sandwich? Sandwich in terms of normal sandwich or like hamburger type
Anything you
sandwich.
want, whatever you consider a sandwich.
Well, one of the things that I love about the States is delis. I love a good
Oh
pastrami
yeah,
and rye. I like fresh pastrami and rye. Like, pastrami isn't as like it's around in New Zealand, but it's not like prevalent.
it's
So I
not the
love a good
same.
yeah, I love a good pastrami,
Yeah,
oh
you might be able to get a pastrami sandwich shipped to you through this website. I don't know if you've heard of this website called GoBelly.
oh okay. Nah.
So they do like, all right, I got a buddy who lives in Portland, Oregon. I'm in New York. And whenever he comes to New York once a year, Portland, Oregon's about 3,000 plus miles away. You can use this service. Obviously, it's a little pricey, but they basically like they vacuum seal whatever you order and send
And
it
then
to
send it to
you
you.
with precise instructions. Like you
Oh
have to,
shit.
it's like putting together like, like a mech basically, where it's like, this is what you need to do. And he's like, yo, this tastes exactly like you would get it at the deli,
Yeah. But I guess yeah. So like that's like sandwich, but does do hoagies count as sandwiches?
Oh yeah.
Um, so the one thing that I absolutely love in America, my go-to, and I've got to actually go there for the authentic one, but a Philly cheesesteak.
Oh yeah.
Uh,
Yeah.
Philly cheesesteak, I absolutely love them. And there's one place here in Auckland, New Zealand, that is doing a pretty good Philly cheesesteak, but not with provolone cheese. I like the provolone cheese. So it's good, but not quite. It's like I've got to go to Philly. Like screw the Liberty Bell, screw the Rocky Steps. I'm going to Philly just for the Philly cheesesteak. Like
Listen,
um,
that's a That's a good reason to go to Philly. You can skip everything else and just
Yeah,
go
and
straight for the
yeah,
cheesesteaks.
so I want an authentic Philly cheesesteak in Philly. That's what I love. And yeah, whenever I get to States, I'm always like Philly cheesesteak. Like, gotta find a good
Gotta do
Philly
it.
cheesesteak. So yes, that would probably be my favorite. Love that.
When are
Yeah.
you coming to New York?
I was in New York in 2016 for New York Comic Con. Um, trying to think. I probably won't be able to do New York Comic Con this year. I've got a whole bunch of stuff around at the same time, but I'm definitely keen to come back to New York Comic Con. That was a fun show.
Yeah, it's always a good show.
Um, yeah, hopefully, the next time I'm at New York Comic Con, we'll have a new headlock um, to release as well to sell. Yeah, but yeah, New York Comic Con, and I know Mike is in upstate New York, so
Yeah.
that's his kind of you know territory. But yeah, no, I'm definitely keen to do New York again. Um, I did find New York weird though because I'm used to like trees and grass and stuff everywhere, and
Yeah.
like
Not
just
nothing.
yeah, just like concrete and like steel,
Yeah.
or like just like the architecture is great, but like it just
Mm,
felt weird not being able to see like trees everywhere until you go to Central Park and you're like, oh, this is where they put them. There's a reason why Central Park is there because
yeah.
the disconnect of nature just feels so weird.
It's the
Uh,
one spot.
yeah. But like I stayed in Queens and that was cool because
Oh
it's just
yeah.
like walking around going, ah, this is Spider Man's neighborhood.
Where in Queens did you stay?
um, Astoria
Oh, right
around.
now. That's like
Yeah,
10. I'm in Queens also. That's like 10 minutes from me.
yeah,
That's awesome. Yeah.
yeah.
Great neighborhood.
Yeah. So yeah, so it was just like an Airbnb type place that I was staying when I was there. It was just really like the metro system was great. Like
Oh yeah.
and staying in New York, I finally understood why America has the grid system because I was
Yes.
I understand it now. Like it's on the corner of Fourth and 12th or something like that.
Yeah.
It's like it makes sense because when you have like these massive metropolitan cities, the grid system makes sense because it's easy to understand where you need to go if you're not from
Yeah.
there. Like rather than having street names, you'd be like, I don't know where it is, but so yeah, so being on the subway system and then I was like, oh, I get it.
Yeah.
Yeah, it made it so much easier for me to know where I needed to go. It was like, I get this good system now.
But we're
So
spoiled by it too, because like if we ever go anywhere else, there's no grid system. Like
yeah,
even going like upstate, where it's like, what do you mean turn right on Apple Street? Like I don't know what Apple Street is.
yeah,
Third? No, I know where Third Street is. Like,
yeah. So yeah,
what's
so
it?
yeah, so yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. Yeah, I finally understood it because of the dense metropolitan areas need something like that. So
Yeah.
yeah,
Make sure
um,
nobody gets lost and
yeah,
all that stuff. Yeah,
uh,
come next time you come to New York, I'll come and bother you and hit you up for some comic books.
that's for sure. Like I'm continuing over there and whatnot. I remember taking the subway to Coney Island. I had to do the Warriors. I had to do the Warriors
Oh
trick.
yeah, awesome, awesome.
It was just funny
Yeah.
too because like I was posting about it in my metro, like, oh shit, yeah, man, I'm taking the subway to Coney Island. You know, it's little things like I think that's one of the things I loved about New York was
Yeah.
again just seeing those locations that I'd only seen in movies
Yeah.
and television, like in person, like oh shit, it's the hotel, it's the apartment building from Ghostbusters and stuff like
Yeah.
that.
Yeah. Yeah. That
All
stuff
kinds of
never
those.
gets old too,
Yeah,
like
especially as a big film fan, right? Like
mhm.
just to be able to see that stuff in real life, you're like, oh, this is cool.
It's
Yeah,
real.
yeah. So yeah,
I
so
do
no, definitely keen to come back to New York.
I do think it's funny though when in movies like New York centric movies make it seem like everything is like 2 blocks from each other, but it's like
Yeah,
it's definitely like I think like John Wick 3 is the perfect example of like him running and you're like my wife and I were like watching it and we were like impossible. Impossible. Like he would never get downtown that quick, like running. Like it would take him like quite some, you know what I mean? Like that
yeah.
kind of thing. All right,
Um,
Miko. I appreciate the talk. Where can everybody find you?
yeah, it's real easy. So instead of trying to remember my name or try to spell it, you just gotta find. You just Google Bloody Samoan. And you'll find me. My handles are Bloody Samoan, Instagram and Twitter. My website's bloodysalmon.com. Or if you can't even remember how to spell that, you just Google Samoan comic artist,
Mm.
and it will essentially be just me that pops up on Google.
You
Um,
got the monopoly on
yeah,
being a Samoan
there's not
comic
many
book
of
artist.
us. There's not many of us, if any of us, actually doing this professionally. So,
Mm.
yeah, you just kind of Bloody Samoan. That's where you'll find me. That's also my PlayStation, um, handle as well as my Steam handle. If any of you play Taken and stuff, I usually play Taken when I'm online when I'm in the States. So, if you see me on there when I'm over there, then hit me up.
Awesome. Yeah, I'm gonna save that. I'm down for a Tekken challenge. You're
Yeah,
probably gonna wipe the floor with me, but we'll see. Awesome, man. All right.
sweet.
Listen, I appreciate you coming on, man.
Thanks for reaching out, and that was a pleasure chatting.
Absolutely. That was a lot of fun. Listen, if you're ever in New York, I'll give you the tour, and if I'm ever in New Zealand, I want the Bloody Samoan tour. Listen, guys, follow him online, follow his art, go check him out. Really good dude. We need more people like him out and about and operating on the earth at this time, and in the future. Thanks for tuning in to another episode. This has been a very long week for me personally, but in a good way. In a good way. I was slammed with work, but in the process, I got to visit my brother, which is always nice, and he's totally partially responsible for this week's figure haul, which is a big one. Like sometimes I let the figures pile up a little bit, and then I open them on like a weird given day. But this week, man, pretty cool stuff. Got Bazooka from GI Joe Classifieds. We got Snake Eyes and Timber. I've been looking forward to like all of these, and I'm gonna spam you guys with figure photos. Also, Ulick, Marvel Legends Ulick, the Troll. Now I'm probably gonna have to get that DC Kalibak to complete like this Kirby circle that I have going in my head, because the designs are super similar. They're created by the same guy, kind of almost like not really the same character, but very very similar, like thick big monsters dudes. A couple of Mythic Legions that I ordered quite a while ago actually came. We got Swig, the goblin. I think he's a sorcerer or an alchemist. Super cool figure. Can't wait to do a lot of photos with these guys. The Mythic Legions I feel like translate very well to figure photography. And the Xylian Guard. I'm a big fan of archers, and I think this is the only Mythic Legions figure that I have that actually comes with like a bow and arrow. Very cool, very very mythic, you might say. I love these. I got to check them out at a con. And the piece de resistance this week. I got a Bishop Mezco figure, and this has inspired me. It looks so cool. That box art is fantastic. And I have a Gambit, so I'm gonna put them against each other, do some photos with that. And I'm thinking of completing that X-Men Mezco set, get that box set Wolverine, maybe that previews exclusive Cable. I'm a sucker for the X-Men, so this figure, I can't wait to open it up, pose it, and again spam you with figure photos. Next week I have Patrick Reynolds on the show talking about his art and his comic Bloodstained Teeth out from Image. The final issue comes out next week, so we're going to talk a little bit, or a lot of it, about Bloodstained Teeth and his process. It's a great book. I want you guys to pick it up. I believe the first volume is out right now, so download it, go get it, read it, and then stay tuned for the interview. It would be kind of cool. I may do a premiere for it so we can be in the chat, talk about the book, talk about the interview, and do all that fun internet stuff. Listen, I'm trying to be better at the internet. I'll see you soon. Later. Mwah.